Lent is a sacred season of prayer, penance, and renewal. Fasting is not just about giving something up. It's about making space for God in our hearts. By sacrificing earthly comforts, we unite ourselves more closely with Christ's suffering and grow in virtue and self-discipline. The Church teaches that fasting is a powerful tool to help us overcome sin, deepen our prayer life, and draw closer to God. But fasting isn't just for Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. It can be a weekly or even daily practice throughout Lent. Here are 7 meaningful ways to fast that will transform your Lenten journey and bring you closer to the heart of Jesus. Number 1. The traditional Catholic fast. The easiest and most common way to fast, as recommended by the Church, is to eat 1 full meal and 2 smaller meals, with the 2 smaller meals together, not equaling the size of the full meal, and no snacking in between. This form of fasting is the minimum required by the Church and is mandatory for Catholics on Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. While this is the least difficult form of fasting, it still serves an important purpose. By limiting our food intake, we practice self-discipline, train ourselves in detachment from worldly comforts, and unite our sacrifices with Christ's suffering. This fast allows us to continue our daily responsibilities while making a conscious effort to deny ourselves and focus on God. Though the Church only requires this fast twice a year, Catholics are encouraged to fast regularly, especially on Fridays during Lent. Friday is the traditional day of fasting because it commemorates the passion and death of Jesus on the cross. Number 2. The Daniel Fast. Another powerful way to fast during Lent is the Daniel Fast, which is inspired by the prophet Daniel in the Bible. When Daniel was taken to Babylon, he chose not to eat the king's food because it had been sacrificed to idols. Instead, he ate only vegetables and water. Daniel 1:8-16. Many Christians, especially in Protestant traditions, have adopted this method of fasting, but it is also a meaningful sacrifice for Catholics. This fast is essentially a vegan diet, but done for spiritual purposes. It means no meat and no animal products. So, no milk, eggs, cheese, or butter. Instead, you eat fruits, vegetables, nuts, grains, and legumes. While this might seem restrictive, it is a biblically rooted fast that promotes self-discipline, reliance on God, and spiritual purification. The Daniel fast can also have health benefits, as it is a natural and simple way of eating. However, the real focus is not on health, but on spiritual sacrifice. By choosing a diet that is plain and humble, you are offering a daily act of self-denial to God. Every time you feel tempted to eat something outside of this fast, you can redirect your focus to prayer and remind yourself why you are doing it. Number 3. Bread and water. Fast one of the most traditional and spiritually powerful fasts is the bread and water fast, where you consume only bread and water for a full 24 hours. This practice has deep roots in Christian monastic traditions and was a common form of fasting in the early Church. For the best experience, it is recommended to use homemade bread made with whole wheat flour, salt, water, and yeast, avoiding processed store-bought versions that lack real nourishment. By eating only simple, wholesome bread and drinking water, you detach from worldly comforts and rely more on God's grace. This fast is a powerful way to grow in self-discipline, humility, and spiritual dependence on the Lord. If 24 hours feels too difficult at first, try fasting for a shorter period or doing it once a week before gradually extending the duration. Numbers 3, 4, and 5 are all variations of the same thing. These are bread and water fasts. The bread and water fast is one of the most traditional and spiritually powerful forms of fasting. It has been practiced by monks, saints, and early Christians as a way to detach from worldly comforts and rely fully on God's grace. This fast can be done in 3 different ways. 24-hour fast, eating only bread and water for a full day. Until 6 p.m., a fast that aligns with traditional hours of prayer, noon, 3 Qur p.m. and 6 Qur p.m. Until 3 Qur p.m., honoring the hour of Christ's death on the cross. For the best experience, it's recommended to bake your own bread using organic whole wheat flour, water, salt, and yeast, avoiding processed store-bought bread. A helpful tip: brush the bread with olive oil and sprinkle some coarse salt for a touch of flavor. During the fast, eat as much bread and drink as much water as needed. But you'll find that hunger itself becomes a way to turn to prayer and spiritual focus. It's recommended to practice this fast on Fridays of Lent, and especially on Ash Wednesday. If a 24-hour fast feels too difficult, try a shorter version and work your way up. Number 6. Water-only fast. The water-only fast is the most intense and challenging form of fasting and should be undertaken with caution. It involves consuming only water for a designated period, typically 24 hours or longer. Because this fast places significant physical demands on the body, it is recommended only for those with fasting experience and, if necessary, under the guidance of a doctor. Some people modify this fast by adding lemon, salt, or a small amount of molasses to the water for essential minerals and a slight energy boost. While this is not a requirement, it can help sustain strength, especially for those new to extended fasting. This fast requires prudence and discernment. If at any point you feel unwell, listen to your body and adjust accordingly. For those prepared for it, however, this sacrifice can lead to deep spiritual renewal, increased prayerful dependence on God, and a powerful way to offer penance. Number 7. Fasting from luxuries. Fasting isn't just about food. It's about detaching from distractions that keep us from growing spiritually. In today's world, one of the most powerful ways to fast is by giving up modern luxuries that pull our attention away from God. This can include digital indulgences like endless scrolling on social media, binge-watching TV shows, or excessive gaming. Food and drink luxuries such as sweets, fast food, expensive coffee or alcohol. Unnecessary material comforts like online shopping or mindless consumption of entertainment. By stepping away from these distractions, we create more space for prayer, reflection, and meaningful connection with God. This type of fasting is flexible. Consider what habit or luxury is taking up too much of your time and offer it up as a sacrifice this Lent. Helpful tips for a grace-filled fasting isn't just about giving something up. It's about drawing closer to God and using our sacrifices for a greater purpose. Here are a few ways to make your fasting more spiritually fruitful. Attend Mass on fasting days. Never fast from the Eucharist, the true bread of life. Receiving Christ strengthens us spiritually, making our sacrifice more meaningful. Pray more during mealtimes. Instead of focusing on what you're missing, use those moments to turn your hunger into prayer. Read scripture, say a rosary, or spend time in silent reflection. Give alms. Fasting isn't just about self-denial. It's about helping others. Donate the money saved from meals to the poor. Or offer masses for souls in purgatory. By embracing fasting with prayer and charity, you open your heart to God's grace and transformation. May this Lent be a time of renewal, strength, and deeper union with Christ.